Kia ora and good evening. And yeah, we've got another great guest tonight. So this is I've got tonight Pivot Piece all the way from Perth, Australia. I found Pivot Piece probably a couple of months ago on YouTube, and yeah, always kind of like to stuff. He's mainly yeah does more. He's as you know, he's from Perth, Australia, so he mainly does Aussie stuff. But look, rather than me, I might just let Pivot Piece introduce himself, and then yeah, we can go from there. So over
Yeah,
to
hi
you.
David. Hi everyone. How you going? Yeah, so as you mentioned, Pivot Piece. I made my YouTube channel probably only 3 or 4 months ago. As you say, I make basically sport videos focusing on Aussie rules, a bit of cricket in summer, a bit of NRL, a bit of Olympics, a bit of other stuff. But yeah, fairly new to YouTube, so it's been interesting, but I'm enjoying it so far. And yeah, good to meet a fellow YouTuber and jump on a live stream.
Yeah. No, and I will also I'll reiterate live stream because I'm still quite new to this, and it might just be you and me tonight. But we can always record it and then put it on on our channels, and I'll try and see how we can record it, and yeah, hopefully the audio. Yeah, I did last week. I was with I don't know you. I don't think it's more like New Zealand rugby. There's this guy Myth of Damien McKenzie. So it was a bit of an exclusive. He finally showed his face, and yeah, fortunately, it was a great. Yeah, it was actually a great time. Except I had a different mic audio setup, and my sound was just quite. Yeah, it wasn't great in the playback. So I'm hoping I did experiment with this headset. So it sounds a little bit better, but yeah. So I think it's yeah. So fingers crossed. Yeah, so yeah, so no, I think it was mainly you started how I found you was like, you did a couple of videos about, so made was it about AFL and NRL. I think mainly about stadiums and like I think and you did a couple of pieces about like, how the NRL is talking about expanding to, the all the potential expansion bits. I think that was how I found, that was how I found your channel. So, and I thought it was pretty cool. So, yeah. So, I guess what. So you mentioned you're in Perth, and yeah, you in the you told me who you follow. So, do you want to tell the audience who your teams are?
Yeah, so I'm a very heartbroken Fremantle supporter, which obviously
Uh,
we were bundled out of the finals on Sunday night. Got the opportunity to get in the eight with the win, thanks to St Kilda's last minute win over Carlton, but
mm,
unfortunately, just not good enough in the end, which is disappointing. But when you've followed the Dockers for as long as I have, you'd be used to that.
yeah.
Other sports, I mean, I don't really have an NRL team. I guess the Bears now. They haven't yet been confirmed, but I think the deal's done there.
Yeah, it seems to be like I wouldn't say what 90% nearly there. I think it's just yeah. I think maybe they're just probably ticking off a couple of boxes, crossing the i's, dotting the t, crossing the t's, dotting the i's. Excuse me. Yeah, and then yeah, but yeah. But back to AFL. Yeah. I guess yeah. That's yeah. I did see. It's great how they kind of put all the games that sort of matter, like who's like Carlton's game, and then Frio's game, like sort of like the last two games of the regular season. Because yeah, no, I mean I guess as a Kiwi, I kind of follow it casually, and I mean I'm a Melbourne Demons fan actually. In fact, hang on, I
Well,
think
you've
the only
had more
reason,
success in recent years than my teams.
yeah. Yeah, so I got this in Melbourne, and I saw them at the MCG. So that's my only claim to them. And I have actually seen um, this the yeah, when the AFL tried Wellington, which you actually covered. I think you covered in one of your videos about possible, if other possibilities for expansion. I have been to one AFL game in Wellington when St Kilda brought their games over here, and I thought it's quite a great game. It's the sort of game you kind of have to watch at the stadium because, like, yeah, I mean it's sort of the old cliche, like TV doesn't do justice to the AFL.
Yeah, it's a lot of people say it is a better game to watch live, which I would agree with. You don't really get a perspective of how big the field is when you watch on TV. You don't really see how teams are setting up behind the ball in terms of structure. If you're new to the game, it is quite a messy game. It does look like it is quite chaotic, but when you do sort of understand it and watch it a bit more, you do get there is a bit more strategy and tactics to it. But yeah, it's probably one of the only sports. I mean, compared to the rugby codes, I guess they're better to watch on TV. You could argue, but yeah, definitely in the ground is the place to be for the AFL.
Yeah. And it's just like, I think when I was in Melbourne, you hear about, you obviously hear about stories of, people going on the trams and the trains to go to games, like, and obviously, it's like mainly like the MCG or Docklands, what it's called now, or Marvel Stadium. Yeah, that's a pretty cool name for a stadium. It's like, you see all these fans in their scarves, and it's kind of like I don't know, like the Premier League, or soccer football in Europe, or it's quite tribal. And I guess what's you obviously I think, did you say you must in the intro, like, you so you were actually at the Freo Port Adelaide game on the weekend?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I'm a member for Fremantle, so season ticket holder. So I go pretty much every week when I'm around, and I have done for the best part of, I guess, 15 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so quite a long time. Haven't seen much success in that period, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it's a good atmosphere. It's a good experience to see it live and be a part of it. But yeah, not the season we wanted, unfortunately. I mean, it was very promising. I think they did a lot of things right, but just mentally, I don't know if it's a coaching issue or it's the players being not ready to handle the pressure or whatever it is. But they were just, whatever the opposite of clutch is. That was how you describe Fremantle this year.
Because they definitely had the talent, like, they went over to Sydney and they beat them. I mean, it was a close one, but they still beat them. And it's just like, but I guess, one of the things we're going to, like, the regular season in the AFL, that's finished now, and there's a bye. There's a bit of a break before the finals start, or what we call it, playoffs, whatever the American, but
Finals. Yeah.
it's just been like, it's just been quite a open it's been really, like, just following from March onwards, it's been pretty open. I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole season?
It was certainly, as you say, one of probably the most competitive and the most even season that I've remember watching, for sure. I think 2016, where Western Bulldogs won it from 7th, you could argue that was up there, but there was, for most of the season, there was only 1 or 2 wins separating, first down to 12th or 13th even. So very, very even, very open, great to watch, lots of drama. I don't know, in terms of quality, if any of these teams are really that amazing. I think you could argue, Sydney 16 and 6, I think, or 17 and 6, they went. Certainly in the first 2/3 of the season, they were elite, but really at the end, I didn't see that they were that much better than the rest of the competition. So if that team was to play a Hawthorn, in the mid 2010s, 2013, 14, 15, Geelong in the late 2000s, early 2010s, they're not quite that level, but certainly for a neutral perspective, it's been an incredible year. And yeah, really enjoyed watching it. Unfortunately, Fremantle not good enough to get it done. But the reigning premiers, Collingwood, they didn't get it done. Essendon were in there for a long time,
which most people seem to be. I imagine, most people seem to be happy about.
Collingwood's definitely
not being there. Yeah. What actually happened there? Because they've got, like, Nick Dacos, who's he's considered to be one of the, if not the favorite for the Brownlow, or like certainly one of the best players around. What actually happened there? I still can't work out how, because they seem to be, tracking along, and then yeah, they just didn't even, like, they missed up like with a week to spare. It was like, what happened there?
Yeah, they had a lot of injuries. They don't really have a forward line. They won the premiership last year with a very sort of makeshift forward line. Brody Myercheck as a full forward, and obviously Dan McStay, who got injured in the preliminary final. Neither of those guys are superstars when you compare it to a Carlton or a Brisbane or something like that. I think Collingwood in 23, they probably got every last ounce of output out of all their players, and really it was a bit of a regression to the mean. They won all those close games in 22 and 23, and I think they can. I still think they're a finals team. And don't get me wrong, the injuries cost them. But Pendlebury's getting older, Sidebottom's getting older. Outside of the Dacos brothers, there's not a lot of young talent, I guess, in that midfield, and they have a lot of role players who just sort of stepped up and probably got everything out of themselves that they could ask to get out of themselves last year. But yeah, probably a bit of a regression, but I still think they're a finals contender next year for sure.
They're always sort of like, they're probably just like, someone was pointing out, it's like the simple reasons, they've just had hangover from last season. But although it's not from what you explained of the injuries and all that kind of is a hangover, because I guess they pushed themselves so much, they gave it all their all, and it was mighty close, and then it's just the injuries caught up, and it sounds like they always seem to be thereabouts, like, they're one of the, they're always the big teams. So, but yeah, I guess, what does it, with, I hate to bring up Freo again, but how does it feel? I guess you have all the other states apart from one, Tassie, well, they don't have a team yet, and the Northern Territory, but the other state, the other bigger states, they've got like at least one team in the finals. How does it, what's the feeling like over there? Because obviously, like, the Eagles were never going to make the finals, and Freo just missed out. What's the feeling like towards the September, the next month of football?
Yeah, it's really, Eagles fans generally aren't going to support Fremantle in finals if they make it. So obviously a lot of Eagles fans are probably pretty happy with how it turned out. But look, the Eagles have been really poor for 3 years now. Freo have been a middling sort of team for 4 or 5 years. So we're sort of used to not having a team go deep in September, really since the Eagles won the premiership in 2018. But yeah, this Fremantle team shouldn't be missing finals. It's a very talented team. Probably you could argue the most talented team Fremantle's ever had in terms of players. Yes, they're young, which, it doesn't help, but they did play finals in 2022, and most of that team is still in the team now. But I think it's just a mental side. You could argue the coaching and the game plan is a bit stagnant. It's too risk averse. They defend with ball in hand, so they're not willing to, I guess, take risks enough as you have to at this level to be successful. So I think it's partly the game plan, partly the experience, and obviously there's a few injuries at the end of the year. Josh Tracy, who was our best forward, obviously Sean Darcy in the ruck, and Alex Pearce, who was our captain and best defender. So they lost 3 really key players in the spine, which cost them, but ultimately not good enough. They were in a winning position in all of those last 4 games and couldn't get the job done. So.
Yeah, and they were like in front as well. Yeah, they were. They started out really well against Port, but yeah, I guess Port seemed to be one of those teams that might they could possibly make it all the way. Like this, they just seem to be consistently up there. So yeah, but I guess because because you mentioned you've been you're a season ticket holder there, and were you ever when did Optus Oval open again? I'm just trying to
2018.
2018. So was that was the season when West Coast won the? It seems like a long time ago, but that's the season West Coast won the premiership, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. So they've had one good season in the new stadium, and then yeah, it's been nothing else then. But did you ever go to like is it Subiaco Oval, wasn't it? That was
Yeah,
a
so that was obviously where Fremantle and the Eagles played up until the end of 2017. So yeah, I was a season ticket holder in probably the last 3 or 4 years of Subiaco.
yeah. How does it compare to like? Because I've seen Optus over on the TV and it looks really stunning. Like, I mean, it looks a bit. I guess for me, it looks kind of like it's a bit of an MCG clone, but I mean that's a bit harsh. But it still looks great. It's just it's huge and I mean and certainly for like a sport like AFL, it's great and cricket. I mean for the as long as there's a for the it's a if it's India or England and there's a good crowd there, it looks fine. But yeah, what is it? Are there bits of Subiaco that you miss, or has Optus just pretty much put Subiaco in firmly in history?
Yeah, I mean, I made a video on Subiaco maybe about a month ago, just reminiscing and sort of talking about the stadium. It was definitely well overdue to be demolished by the time it was. I mean, they'd been talking about a new stadium in Perth for probably 10 years before they started building Optus. So Subiaco really was just a suburban ground that gradually got developed into the AFL stadium in Perth because obviously the Eagles came in 1987. So
Yeah.
previously it was just a waffle ground. But really the stadium grew with the Eagles, I guess, in terms of the modern or semi-modern additions to it. They built a three-tier stand in 1969, and then sort of between the 80s and the last stage, I think, was finished in 01. They just built up the ground. The capacity was like 43,000, but yeah, it was really obsolete. In the middle of a residential neighborhood, like you're not going to have that area for people to congregate and big crowds of people to move in and out. So yeah, Optus is an incredible ground. I do sort of get what you're saying with the MCG clone, and I got smashed in my stadium rankings video because I had it in third. And I said it was, I can't criticize the ground, but it is just a little bit generic. I had the MCG and Adelaide Oval ahead of it. But in terms of amenities and getting people in and out, it's top draw. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you'd expect then something built in 2018 that you'd have to have and I certainly because I guess the other thing over there because was Optus built that was that exclusively by the state, like the Western Australia state government?
That's right. Yeah. So basically,
Yeah.
every stadium in Australia is built by the state government and owned by the state government.
Yeah.
There's really not the money in the private investment in terms of stadiums. I don't think governments really want private enterprises owning stadiums either, because there could be price gouging or anti-competitive behaviour or whatever. So that's just the way it's always been,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I guess that I mean coming from New Zealand or coming outside Australia, yeah, it's something we've always looked at Australia, like New South, like just how Australia just really you guys invest so much money into sport, whether it's facilities and or just athletes, like and you're willing to like I guess Sydney for example, like it's kind of actually replacing the old SFS and replacing Parramatta Stadium. That was kind of like top of the list, and you think else in a lot of other countries, and I'm thinking like I guess like the UK, it's like well, good luck with the good if you were you wouldn't ask the government to like go and find a say because Manchester United is looking to let's talk about tearing down Old Trafford, but you wouldn't ask the UK government to go and pay for that. It's like, yeah, go, get a life or that sort of thing. Or, I mean, they do have that in the US, it's very controversial, like, using taxpayer money to build stadium. But, in Australia, it's kind of like, yeah, if it's kind of, yeah, we love our sport, we're going to build the best thing that is out there. And, I mean, yeah, I get, and I guess, there is a lot of perks investment that are coming out of it, and I guess certainly with Perth is a growing city, and certainly deserves to have that stadium. So yeah, and it's certainly for hosting like rugby games and all that. I mean, sidelines it's not the best, but certainly getting the crowds, it's great. They're getting money, getting money back from the investment. So, yeah, I've got a question. I think I might from Boston. What do you think, guys, about the possibility of the NRL buying the Super League in the UK? We might address that in a bit when we might talk a little about the NRL in a bit. But I guess just a quick promo. I should do that. Yeah, so you've got a video coming out about the attendance record in 2024 in the AFL.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't want to give away too much, but I'm just basically running through the total crowds, the average crowds for 2024, which was a record, and also just going through each club and seeing whether they've increased their average attendance on last year or decreased, and just sort of talking about some of the reasons behind that.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a good video if you are interested. And you see with my channel, I'm more about sort of the, I guess you could say, economic or administrative side of it rather than, I mean, I'm not a tactical expert or anything. So, and there's a lot of channels that do that. So I sort of try and look at the business side of it, I guess.
I've always thought, you've been into like stadiums, expansions, and one last AFL thing, because I think we've talked about it. And what are your thoughts, what are your thoughts on the the new Tasmania Devils team?
Yeah, I mean, I've and a lot of AFL fans have been wanting this for a long time. And the AFL in 2007, 2008, they they announced that the Gold Coast and Western Sydney were getting the license, and there was a lot of anger even back then that didn't go to Tasmania. And even back in the 90s, they've been talking about Tasmanian expansion. So well overdue, in my opinion. People criticize it and say, the talent base in the competition isn't deep enough to sustain 19 or maybe 20 teams. And I mean, there's probably an argument there, but I think for the good of the game, the AFL is meant to be the custodian of the sport. And Tasmania is a diehard Australian football state. They deserve a team of their own. And that new stadium looks awesome down there. So hopefully
I've seen the designs. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean, they've turned up like Hawthorn. You've had Hawthorn, and is it North Mel? The Kangaroos have played home games there for years now. So I guess
Hawthorn's played since about 2001, I think, and North was about 2012. But particularly North, they really just sell games there. The government sponsors them. And it's just because they don't make money off small crowds at Marvel Stadium, really. So
no,
they've never really. Maybe Hawthorn's probably done a bit more, to be fair, in terms of community engagement and stuff like that. But that's really just taking from Tassie. But I think this new team will give a lot to the community, and
it'll be interesting. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens. I guess would Hawthorn and North, would the Kangaroos and I mentioned, would they still take games there? I wouldn't have thought. It wouldn't. Really
I don't think so. There was some talk about Hawthorn playing a home game against Tasmania in Launceston, but I mean we're still 4 years away, so we'll see. I wouldn't have thought so though. But the interesting discussion point is going to be that 20th team for me. Because I think that they're not going to stay at 19; they will go to 20.
Oh no, and it's like currently the NRL's got odd number teams, and so there's always got to be one team that's missing out. And this season, the Warriors are not going to play the final weekend. I think they've got a bye. I've got to check that again, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I think there's 2 more rounds in the NRL. But it's I mean, with the Bears coming in, that will sort that out. Well, I'm sure it'll be the Bears that will sort that out. But you can't have a top any competition anywhere can't have odd number teams. It just doesn't make any sense. So I guess Well, so I guess that 20th team. I guess I haven't really. I think you might have done something. I recall you might have done a video about it in the past. But what's the word on the 20th AFL team?
Yeah, so the narrative in the media and sort of the public sentiment is Northern Territory. But But I've been somewhat outspoken about this because they just don't have the population or the economy to sustain an AFL team, and also the climate is a problem because of the humidity and the heat. I don't think it hasn't progressed to the point where they've put out, tenders for bids or anything like that. But I think the AFL knows what they're doing. They're not going to put a team in a place that can't sustain it. They're already arguably doing that with Gold Coast and the GWS. So they don't need a third one. But I've been an advocate for a Canberra team. People will say West Australia, a third West Australian team. I think it could sustain it, but I just don't see the appetite here for it. But yeah, I'm certainly a proponent of the Canberra team. I think that is sort of that southern New South Wales and I guess ACT area is sort of an AFL, definitely southern New South Wales. They prefer Aussie rules over rugby league. And Canberra's sort of a 50-50.
For some reason, Canberra's like such a good hub for sport. Like, you got the Brumbies have been probably Australia's best Super Rugby team, and you got the Raiders, the Green Machine. That's probably the number one team there. And it'd be. And they've got, I guess, Monica Oval there. So I guess it remains to be seen. So
I think they'd need a new stadium or a significant renovation.
They'll have to
but look,
enhance
there's
it.
half a million people in Canberra, and it's growing quickly, so it does make sense. But I think it's still 8 to 10 years away, probably. So and maybe we can get on to some NRL. But just quickly, do you have a tip for the premiership in the AFL?
Well, I sort of did a video. Look, I'm a D's fan, but I do kind of like the Swans because, well, I guess I do have cousins in Sydney, and I kind of like the Swans. But I'm just gonna throw it out there because my tip's always gonna be a bit maverick. I might say that it could be the Giants here because I just kind of feel they've looked really strong of late, and it's just Sydney have like you say, the Swans have looked a little bit vulnerable. So it's got to come down, of course, the format, because you know how 1 and 4, you've got the major finals, and then you've got those 5 to 8 elimination. So it's really, maybe Giants. Giants.
I agree. I think they're looking
not
great.
Lions, not Brisbane Lions. Yeah, Brisbane. Giants, Lions, if that's possible. Yeah,
the Giants would have to win against Sydney for that to be possible. Otherwise, they'll play each other in the semi-final. But I like the Giants too. I think that's a good tip. They're peaking at the right time. They've got lots of finals experience. They've got a good record over the Swans. 3-0 in finals.
That first game, Giants Swans, is going to be a cracker. So it's like, I could easily see the Giants. And if they win that, yes, you said they get they progress to like the preliminary. Is it called the preliminary finals? Because I know
correct.
So weird. So so remains to be seen. But look, I think we've talked about AFL. Look, a little bit. It's a minority sport outside Australia, but and our boss man has kindly put a few questions about the NRL. So, and I guess that's a nice segue, because I guess, look, I think maybe, let's say, look, obviously it is looking almost, I guess it's pretty much when they'll announce it, but so North's, it's looking like the next NRL team after the Dolphins is it's really going to be an all new NRL team because it's the North Sydney Bears returning to the NRL, albeit transplanted in Perth. What's the feeling? What's the feeling about this? What are your thoughts on that?
From a Perth perspective, I haven't really, because rugby league's a minority sport, obviously in WA. I haven't really heard it discussed too much, sort of outside of the online sports community. But look, I think, as I've said in videos, West Australians get behind West Australian teams. And a lot of people say, it shouldn't be the Bears. It's a transplant team. It's from Sydney. No one's going to support it. But I really don't think the average West Australian is, A, either going to know what the West Sydney Bears are, or B, going to care, because they probably don't support the NRL already. And, the average person on the straight here couldn't tell you the difference between league and union. So, they just call everything rugby, right? So as long as the team is based in Perth, it's playing games in Perth, people will get behind it. And you've got a big community of New Zealanders, Polynesians here,
and South Africans as well. I mean, if you
lots of English and South Africans. I mean, they would probably tend to support Union over League, but I think they might be easier to convert than some of the locals. But I think it'll be a success. It's a big city, lots of money.
Yeah,
well overdue again. I think the NRL. Well, they were there really in the late 90s, but obviously
the Western Reds. I can't. What was the team? Yeah, because Boston had a question about the Super League. What was the? I was think the Western Reds. I can't remember what the.
It was Western Reds. They also had Adelaide Rams as well, but
Adelaide Rams. Yeah, the Crushers. Yeah, I think the Warriors was kind of part of that that Super League NRL. That war they started spreading out. There's suddenly just all these teams sprouting out everywhere. And yes, I'm fortunately a Warriors fan, which I won't really talk about this season too much because I think it's I certainly think it's long overdue, and I think it was a natural choice. Look, I mean, I imagine there will probably still be like maybe 1 or 2 games that they'll play in like their traditional heartland of North Sydney, like North Sydney Oval or something. Just I guess just to I guess that would be kind of the deal. But like economically, I mean certainly it makes sense to be sort of like the only kind of like if they're the only show in terms of the NRL in Perth.
Yeah, well, the talk was that they were going to play a pre-season game at North Sydney Oval and one home game in Sydney against Manly, who are their traditional rivals, North Sydney's traditional rivals. But you got to remember they're going to be playing probably 5 away games against Sydney teams in Sydney anyway.
That's true.
There's going to be plenty of opportunity for people in Sydney to see them. And people on my video about this were sort of a bit upset that they're going to be playing a home game over there, but I don't really see it as being an issue. It's only one game, right? So
and I guess I mean I'm sure it'll be popular, like because body optics, like to see like an NRL team playing in their heartland, like you see how like the Bulldogs playing at Belmore Oval. It's like it's like it's all packed, and it's rather than, and for me that's kind of like seeing the NRL. I think the one thing that's been great about the NRL this season, like just seeing all these like smaller grounds where they're just like Manly and and going to all the country grounds just packed, and it's like it's certainly like much nicer than you go to seeing like I don't know, the Olympic Stadium in Sydney just like half, like a quarter. It's only a quarter full because it's never going to sell out for like a regular season game. So
and I think that's the NRL has to, and I think they do accept this, but they're not the AFL. They don't get 80,000 people to a regular season game, so they've got to play to their strengths. Play in the small grounds. It looks great. The fans love it. A lot of people have been saying for 20 years plus, they should follow the AFL model and just play in 2 or 3 major stadiums in Sydney. But I agree. I think it looks great. It adds character, to the teams. It's a bit of tribalism. So I love it personally.
And I mean they're certainly going through a really like great time. Like I mean, the Warriors actually, I don't know if this was news over there, but Warriors broke the record for like the most consecutive sellouts for a home game for home games. Which is it's crazy to think, like and you think, oh, this is you think you might expect that for a team that's like top of the table, but the Warriors aren't even, well, they're eliminated, so it's kind of like it's like that's just it's just so popular right now. So but no, so they'd be. Have they confirmed what stadiums or what facilities what their facilities they're going to use for this Western Bears team?
Yeah, well, nothing's really been. The team isn't even confirmed, but I think everyone accepts it's done at this point. So they'll probably confirm that, I guess, after the season at this stage. But they'll be playing their home games at HBF Park, as it's called now. That's the rectangular stadium.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a pretty
so
cool ground. I actually kind of like that. Yeah, because the Force play over there and the Perth Glory play over there.
that's
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I mean, yeah, like there's no way. Yeah, they shouldn't be playing at Optus. As I said, the site it's Optus is just not designed for football, and it's just way too big. Like unless I mean, if they were to make the, if there was to be like if they somehow made like the the preliminary finals, then yeah, that. But still, yeah, no, it's got to be like. Was it HBF? That was that. Is that Perth Oval, the traditional
Yeah,
name?
it's Perth
Yeah,
Oval.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just wondering what was it once an oval shape or before they did this they converted it into a exclusive rectangular stadium?
Yeah, it was a WAFL ground. East Perth in the West Australian Football League played there for forever. 80+ years, whatever it was. But when the Perth Glory came in to the NSL in '96, I think they converted it into an oval. And it sort of was they had temporary stands up on the outer side for like 15 years. It was just horrendous, but it got a big renovation around 10, 12 years ago where they
Yeah.
built 2 new stands, and it's quite a nice ground now. Apparently, they are going to upgrade the older grandstand when this NRL team comes in as well. So
Yeah, I imagine they kind of would, but yeah, which is a shame because it looks yeah, I've seen it. It looks pretty cool. So yeah, like yeah, I've seen it quite a bit. Obviously, Western Force, with the Force and Super Rugby. Yeah, just what's the Force like? Or what's the because I know the Force have actually got the highest membership figures for any rugby union side in Australia, or well, they did at one stage, but it sounds like they're not really they don't really register even in Perth.
no, I mean you can make that argument about union as a whole in Australia now. Unfortunately, I mean it's a bit of an afterthought. It's on Stan Sport, I think, which is like a niche streaming
Yeah, it's like the
service.
fourth choice or fifth choice channel.
Yeah, I mean, we have KO Sports, which is like the affiliate of Fox Sports for the streaming, and that has all the NRL and all the AFL on it. So 90% of people would just have KO, and really
Mm.
only the diehards would have Stan.
The rugby, the Kiwis, or all the South African fans for that matter, because they would just get stand just to watch the rugby. So yeah, because the Wallabies would be on free to wear and on was it Channel 7 or no Channel
Oh, I
9,
think
isn't
they're
it?
on 9. I think,
Yeah, they're
or is
Channel
it
9.
10?
That's
One of
right.
them
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So we should get to some of these questions. We did. Yeah. The other Boston's got another question. Yeah, and Ben's talking about. So looks like, well, I mean, obviously, it looks like the Bears are going to be the next team, but I mean, there's the talk. There's the talk that there's still they're looking to go to 20 teams ultimately, and there's talk. There's the second end. There's talk of having another New Zealand NRL team based in Christchurch, and I guess, you did a video about that actually. About the Southern Kia. There's the and then there's the new. Obviously, they're finally building this new. Well, Christchurch is finally getting its long overdue new stadium because as you know the original the original AMI stadium, we call it it's Lancaster Park for the traditionally that got destroyed in the 2011 earthquake. So but yeah, it's expected to be finished 15 I think by the time it's called it's called Tikaha um you know currently, but it's gonna have a sponsor like One New Zealand Stadium, which I think you actually covered there in your video. Yeah. So yeah, that's gonna open like 15 years after the Christchurch earthquake in February, which effectively you know rendered Lancaster Park useless. And yeah, I guess so that there is talk that that new stadium could be a home for New Zealand's second NRL team. Yeah, I guess what are your what are your thoughts like? What should New Zealand should New Zealand get another NRL team? I mean, appreciating that the Warriors do have massive following across New Zealand already.
Yeah, so I think Peter V'landys has gone on record and is it Andrew Abdo or whoever it is on the commission in the NRL's gone on record and said they want to get to 20 teams in the next sort of 10 years. And my view was obviously Perth. And I do support a second New Zealand team. And, you know, I did say most likely it will be Christchurch based on that stadium, because I don't really think that Sky Stadium or whatever it is called in Wellington is really
Sky Sim, yeah.
It's not really set up for rectangular sport. So, but I mean, maybe you could give your thoughts on whether Wellington would be a better host. Like, notwithstanding the stadium, would a team work better in Wellington?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it is actually, yeah. It's not really. I mean, it's a tricky time for Wellington. I mean, just economically, look. I mean, it's. I think, yeah. There's just. I mean, Wellington, obviously, you know, there's just, with the new government, there's a lot of changes, and there's a lot of uncertainty around jobs, because, you know, most of the economy is based around you know, most of the people who live in Wellington, they work for the government, so state sector, you know, and, you know, so like project management or state sector jobs. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So I think, and unfortunately, that's kind of filtered into like sport, like in terms of you know, people wanting to go and watch sport, like the Hurricanes, like, you know, like, I mean, they still get like 10,000, but it's certainly down from what it was. Like, might have been like 10 years ago. So, I mean, yeah, they had the Wellington Phoenix, which they got some good numbers, but I think it was partly because, while they were, you know, they were at one stage looking like they'd win the A League minor premiership, or the premiers, and they got like arguably the biggest crowd of the A League season. But, you know, again, that's probably, you know, that's like a one-off situation. And, you know, the Wellington, you know, the Knicks were pretty much, you know, that, you know, that was like their one game into the final. So I mean, that, you know, that will always get a crowd. I guess the tricky thing is sustaining you know, like having a regular season, you know, NRL team. And I mean, at the moment, I'd say I I think, yeah, Wellington just doesn't quite have the people power. I just think being on the same island as, or, you know, being on the same island as Auckland, you know, Auckland's an hour away. I mean, while, you know, there's the Auckland versus Wellington rivalry, but I think it would just, yeah, I personally think, yeah, Christchurch is probably the better option. If people tend to think Wellington's, you know, of course Wellington's the capital, it should be a big city, but really it's not. I mean, Auckland's the largest city by, you know, like a million people by a long, long way. Like, and then the second largest city is actually Christchurch. So economically, it makes far more sense to go to Christchurch. And yeah, like Ben saying, yeah, you can get 7 to 8,000. I think that was sort of towards the end, but yeah, the other thing, of course, yeah, and then you mentioned Sky Stadium. Look, it is, yeah, it has had its. I mean, it's been around for about 25 years, and I guess I should tell a bit of story. Look, it was sort of, when it was moved, it was sort of originally moved as an idea to replace both Athletic Park, which was the rugby football stadium, a rectangular stadium in Wellington. It's sort of yeah, and you should look up pictures of it. It's sort of located in Burnport, which I shouldn't. It's sort of located far away from the city center, and it's a suburban ground by all intents. And yeah, it was pretty run down. Like, by 1999, it was, you know, at least 30 years out of date. So the the original the Sky Sim idea was originally mooted to replace that and the basin reserve. So that's why it was rectangular, because obviously it's easier to build. Oh, I'm sorry, not rectangular. It was circular. Sorry, but with the idea to you know, it was to host cricket and the Hurricanes and Wellington Rugby. And but yeah, as it's transpired, you know, how many cricket games does you know, the basin reserve is still around, and it's never been more popular. You know, they might, you know, the Sky Stadium, you know, never hosted Test cricket. It's never going to host Test cricket because, you know, it's just too, you know, it would never get the numbers for it. And yeah, and what we're left now is a stadium that, you know, might host one or two, you know, high level like T20 one day is still not even great for those, because, you know, now cricket games barely sell out even for like Australia or England. So you're pretty much left with this stadium that, you know, I guess, well, yeah, the Hurricanes are the main, you know, would arguably be the anchor tenants, and they would have the most, they'll bring in the biggest crowds. You've got the All Blacks, that will generally, by and large, the stadium will sell out. They had issues with attendance with that New Zealand Argentina game. Um, but yeah, it's just it is, yeah, it's really like trying to fit. It's literally trying to fit a rectangle peg into a circular hole. So, and like the sidelines are just, they're not ideal. Like I mean, there are places that are far worse, like around the world, for watching soccer, rugby, these rectangular sports. And but so I think Sky Stadium certainly could be much better. And yeah, like Ben said, Wellington have sort of moved to like Porirua because the numbers were like, are pretty certainly, and not so much Super Rugby, but NPC. Like that's the Rugby Union National Provincial Championship. It's been around since the 70s. It's, for most rugby fans like myself, they'll say it's the real thing, not Super Rugby. But they've taken more games from like, like Wellington, because they were getting like, I think Wellington's about 30 seats. The Sky Stadium is about 30,000, but they were getting like, for Wellington NPC, they were getting like, getting as low as 1,000. So in fact, I was at the game at Porirua Park on the weekend when Wellington played Manawatu. Now the stadium in Porirua is about, I think it's much, much smaller. It's like, I think you'll be looking at like, yeah, I don't actually know the capacity per se, but I think you'd be looking like 2,000 would be, really like that's like a sellout. But yeah, it's a smaller ground. There's one stand. There's like There's a grass embankment, and there's a softball pitch on the other side. But yeah, it just felt, yeah, 2,000 approximately. Yeah, Jerry Collins. It's called Jerry Collins Stadium. It's named after the late All Black, because Jerry Collins was like a Porirua local. But yeah, look, I went to that game, and and I took my two kids there, and that was so much, like the atmosphere is just so much better. Like, it, and even like, yeah, I think the Wellington Phoenix women have played most of their games there. Maybe the men could. Yeah, it's a much better venue. I mean, much better atmosphere. Like, when they host, in fact, when they host like most games at Sky Stadium for like the Hurricanes and the Knicks, they actually close off like half the stadium now, so that everyone is sort of, they try and put people in the stands where, on TV, there's always one stand that gets the focus, so they try and fill that side up with as much people. So yeah, yeah. So there you go. I mean, back to the question. That's a roundabout way of answering your question about the NRL coming to Wellington. I'd say no, Christchurch. I think Christchurch will be a bit. I mean, the new stadium, Luster, will definitely help. And Canterbury does have a pretty decent rugby league scene. So yeah, and they've got the Crusaders, and yeah, they still seem to attend their sports games there. So yeah.
Yeah, people were saying on my video, oh, no one supports league in the South Island. So, and I'm sure, obviously, YouTube comments probably aren't the most reliable thing to go off, but yeah, I
I
think it
think it
makes
will
sense.
grow. It will, yeah. Like, there's the Canterbury Bulls. They've got a reasonably solid base. Um, so I mean, it's still, and then you've got Dunedin. I mean, to be fair, it's pretty easy to fly from Wellington to Christchurch as well. So, and then you've got Nelson, and yeah. So,
I'm sure
um,
they'd use that Forsyth Bar Stadium as a secondary home and play a couple of
potentially,
games
yeah.
there as well, because that's a good stadium as well, right? And
It
it's
is, yeah. I used to grow up in Dunedin. Yeah, I've got family still down there. And Forsyth Bar, yeah, I think for me, Forsyth Bar is the best stadium in New Zealand, arguably. Like, yeah, I've been at Eden Park, Sky, went to the old Lancaster Park. Yeah, Forsyth Bar is like easily the best stadium. Like, yeah, just for the facilities and all that. Yeah, yeah, no, that would certainly. I mean, there's a good yeah, like the students down there certainly love to attend games. So yeah.
what's the latest situation with Auckland in terms of the stadium?
Nothing. Yeah. Look, I don't know. Have you heard? You probably would have heard stories. How they for years they've wanted they've always had this idea of building like a waterfront, stadium on the waterfront.
Right.
Yeah, like like right next to Auckland, like kind of like because I guess following like the Wellington model, like Sky Stadium is like pretty much literally on built on top of the train lines leading into Wellington Station. So and it in terms of like proximity to the city, it's it's second to none. There's also Dunedin as well, but yeah, so Auckland's trying to replicate that, but yeah, really that I mean that it's sort of been like laughed at. They did sort of come a little bit closer when so when New Zealand won the rights to host the 2011 Rugby World Cup, they said, oh, they started, oh, why don't we try and build this stadium rather than had to find out Eden Park, because Eden Park's a suburban ground and there's issues with like noise consents. In fact, yeah, did you know until only a few years ago, Eden Park wasn't allowed to host like concerts past a certain hour on certain days for like public events?
Right. Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah,
aware of that. But I
yeah,
mean,
because
I just think that, and I get there's economic issues over there, and you don't have billions of dollars to spend on stadiums, but that multi-purpose sort of cricket rugby is just it looks terrible. It doesn't
oh
serve either sport, well.
yeah,
So
Eden Park for cricket is the weirdest. It's just so weird. It was weirder like they had the renovations for the Rugby World Cup. Before that was actually even like wasn't it? I don't know if you remember. It was like it's not even, I wouldn't call it like a diamond shape. It's like it was just, I don't know. The wicket was just pointing. It was just placed in some random. It's a drop in pitch clearly, but the wicket was like pointing at some, it had just some really bizarre axis, so you naturally had boundaries which were just really lopsided. And yeah, it's just like and it's even now it's like they've sort of uniformed it, you could say. That's the one word, but it's just still, it's like, no, it's not I mean, it's great for one days and T20s. They did England did play the played New Zealand in the test there, but
that was a
it was
day-night
just so
test
weird.
too, right?
It was, yeah. So, but it still looked weird. It was like, no, this just it just doesn't look
Yeah, I
right. Like,
mean, but even for limited overs, you can't have like 50-meter boundaries. It's just
no,
ridiculous.
you're like, yeah, it's like, wow, they should really be getting scores of 400 for T20s there. It's like, given how short the boundaries are, it's like, yeah. Oh yeah, because I don't. Do you follow much of the A League? So, because I know you.
Yeah, I used to follow it pretty closely, but A League has gone the same way as Super Rugby in terms of
Yeah,
really fallen out of the public eye. It's on another Paramount Plus.
Paramount
I
Plus.
guess you guys
Yeah,
probably have that
upwards.
as well.
No, well, we don't. Well, it's all. Well, fortunately, everything's on Sky here. Like Sky just has a monopoly here in New Zealand
Yeah.
in terms of
So that's how it
sport.
was in Australia probably 10 years ago with Fox. Everything, AFL, NRL, rugby, soccer, like it was all on Fox. But I think the A League, Fox didn't want to show the A League anymore. So,
No, yeah,
and it was already on, to be fair, it was already on a decline from then.
yeah.
But yeah, really since about 20, probably 18, 19, it's just fallen away completely. It's still, they get decent crowds like Western Sydney,
Yeah.
Sydney FC, Melbourne, Victory get good crowds. But I used to actually go to quite a few Glory games, but
Oh,
I,
yes.
I couldn't tell you the last time I watched a game these days.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the next episode had a bit of resurgence here, so yeah. And then there's, of course, New Zealand's had we've got Auckland FC. Like Ben's mentioned that, yeah, because yeah, like I think they were Auckland FC. They want to build like a new stadium because they're the new expansion A League team. So they're gonna play at Mount Smart Stadium, which is where the Warriors currently play, which I think is a pretty good choice. I mean, yeah, I mean they can't play. Eden Park's too big for them right now, but yeah, it's yeah, because he's the guy who owns Auckland FC actually is the same guy who owns Bournemouth, the Bournemouth
Oh,
AFC,
in
and
the Premier
yeah,
League, yeah.
yeah, and there's a bit of a yeah. So I think this is like over a month ago. So the Knicks had this goalkeeper Alex Paulson, who was probably the best keeper in the A League last season, and he's really young. He secured a move to Bournemouth, but yeah, at the time, because we knew like the Auckland was coming into the A League, and it's owned by this guy who owns Bournemouth. It's like, oh yeah, Alex Paulson's going to Bournemouth, and it's like, yeah, and the A League had this Caceres rule where like you can't loan a player from Bournemouth or Man City to the A League, if they come from another side. But what's happened is like, yeah, apparently the leagues like reverse that rule. So Paulson, Alex Paulson's actually, and Alex Paulson's now been loaned out to Auckland FC. And so there's kind of a bit of the like, yeah, with Knicks fans aren't really happy about it. It's a bit like, sorry if I bring out this football analogy here, like Sol Campbell going from Tottenham to Arsenal, or Carlos Tevez. No, he didn't really. Yeah, it's like, so yeah, it's certainly going to spice up. It's certainly going to spice up this Wellington Auckland rivalry in the new season. Yeah.
Well, any publicity is good publicity, right? So
yeah.
And if you can develop a rivalry there, it'll be good for the league.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like trying to make New Zealand football soccer fans like, I mean, like English fans, you know how like football fans just get irrational over the most inane things, like I think, yeah, because because of showing my age, yeah, when Sol Campbell left, the first game that Tottenham Arsenal, as they're big rivals, but local rivals like your Freos and West Coast. When Sol Campbell returned to Tottenham for the first game again, with his new team Arsenal, everyone was just like holding up Judas signs, and just like calling out Judas, and it's like, yeah, this might happen in Auckland, but people might not notice. Alex Paulson's he's actually from Auckland, so he's kind of going home. So can't blame the guy if he wanted to go home. So, but yeah, like
hopefully it generates a bit of publicity. And
yeah, football fans are irrational. Yeah, we are irrational with certain things. So yeah. So that's that. What I guess, yeah. Oh, I guess, and we've been talking about. I guess we're having yarns about sport, which is kind of how I like to do these things. But the one thing that certainly, look, I guess we'll definitely want to talk to you about. Yeah, we've had the Olympics. Obviously, that's just finished in Paris. We've got the Paralympics. I think that starts tomorrow or following day or something like that. Yeah,
soon,
yeah. And you of course, that's kind of Brisbane's hosting the games in about 8 years' time, and you've done a couple videos about Brisbane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny one. They were awarded the games in 21 really without any major competition. I actually don't think there was any other official bids.
No, they.
Yeah, and Queensland has had a change of not government but premier. So the previous premier got that was her passion project, but I don't know whether she quit or was ousted by her party.
Is it Anastasia Palaszczuk?
Palaszczuk,
Yeah.
So anyway, she got that, and people are obviously unhappy. A lot of the issues in terms of housing and cost of living and everything are going to be similar between Australia and New Zealand. So, people are saying you should be investing in, new housing or public transport or whatever it is, right? So basically, they were going to rebuild the Gabba, which is obviously the cricket and Aussie rules ground, but they basically backflipped on that maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and they're going to renovate the 1982 Commonwealth Games Stadium.
Yeah,
that was where the Brisbane Broncos used to play. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, when they were renovating Lang Park, or what's Suncorp Stadium for.
Yeah, before my time anyway. But yeah, so the outrage was because that stadium's like 12 kilometres out of the city, so it's a long way out. I don't believe there's any train connections to it, and it's going to cost $1.6 billion for a temporary stadium, 40,000 seats, and they're going to convert it back into a 14,000 seat athletics venue afterwards. And Brisbane, the Gabba is actually, it badly needs either rebuilding or they need a new stadium. So my issue was, you've got the perfect chance to upgrade all your infrastructure, upgrade all your stadiums, there's an argument that you don't even get the Olympics at all, which like I can understand that argument. But if you're going to get it, you may as well do it properly, invest the
Exactly.
money,
Yeah.
and you can upgrade airports and train lines and whatever else at the same time. But look, I think there's going to be a change of government in Queensland probably in this October election. The opposition hasn't committed either way, really. They're sitting on the fence, but my suspicion is they're going to either go back to the Gabba plan or that other Victoria Park plan, which was basically a completely new stadium, because they've kind of been hinting at this QSAC, Queensland Sports and Athletic Centre rebuild is just ridiculous, which it is. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But they still do have 8 years. So there is time.
Although 8 years, yeah, there is time. Although the more like you cut down to October, and then they have to get all that started. So you'll be talking like 7 years, 6 years. It's like it's kind of cutting it fine, I guess. And wasn't it? And I think you said, I think one of you really said that. Was it the Victoria Park Stadium? If they do go ahead with it will be the most expensive stadium ever built, or was that?
Well, there was I mean I think that was budgeted or estimated at 3.4 billion, but there was another stadium that I made a video about that was proposed by a private investor that was going to be $6 billion, supposedly, like a crazy abstract
looking
sky. Yeah, which I don't think is ever going to happen. But
no.
But the Gabba plan was 2.7, and they commissioned a report into what they should do for the Olympics, and the report said you should build this new stadium in Victoria Park for 3.4, and then the government ignored the report that they commissioned, and then they decided we're going to do the QSAC. So yeah, it's a total mess, but I think there's plenty of time, as I said, because historically the Olympics were only awarded 7 years before the.
That's right. Yeah.
So they've had actually 21, so it would be 11 years to get this right. So they've already wasted 3.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I like the news when they said like, they were gonna have the opening ceremony at Langford. I was like, oh my, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, that's quite different. I mean, I guess I know the Olympics are trying to like go real budget because they're trying to move away from like this model where cities are just it was just getting outrageous. Like the countries are spending billions, and you've got like Essence, still trying when Rio's trying to they've got all these derelict abandoned stadiums, which are not they're just left to rot, and they're still paying off trying to host the Olympics. And so like with Paris, like picking like Paris, Los Angeles, they've already got facilities to host the Olympics, so host events. And so I guess like for Brisbane it kind of felt like, well, maybe they've taken this a little bit too far. So but no, it'll be certainly interesting to see. And I mean, what's the chance, like, if I'm sure it's probably pie in the sky, but is there a chance, like, if that Brisbane could, if Brisbane was not able to sort itself out, it could go to like another Australian city, like so like Sydney or Melbourne?
Well, I mean, hypothetically, Sydney and Melbourne would obviously have better facilities, bigger cities. They're probably a better fit, but I think the IOC doesn't enter into a agreement with a country or a Olympic committee. It awards it to a specific city. So I think if Brisbane backed out, I don't think it necessarily stays in Australia. I mean, maybe it goes back to Tokyo. Yeah. They didn't get a chance to have fans at their Olympics.
Yeah, they need a proper. Yeah, they deserve a proper Olympics. Yeah, that was such a shame because
I think they should get probably 36 at least, but 2036. But look, I think because Melbourne or Victoria just backed out of hosting the Commonwealth Games last year.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think they would want it.
No.
And Sydney, I mean, they could do it, but again, I don't think they'd want it.
Yeah.
But I think 95% sure it happens in
And
Brisbane.
I wanted to happen in Brisbane, yeah. And I'm hoping, like, I guess my kids will be in the teens. They'll be like, and we've got relatives. My wife has got cousins over there. It'd be great to go over there and just because it's like, it's just going to Brisbane. It'd be like, from New Zealand, it's just so easy. Seeing an Olympics would just be amazing. I went to the London 2012 Olympics, and it was only one day. It was it was really special. So so it's like it's definitely one of those things you want to go. And I'm certainly hoping Brisbane can pull it off because I'm sure they can. And as you say, they've got plenty of time. Naturally, because I guess you're from Australia, we've got a question about thoughts on ray gun and Olympic breakdancing. I think that's kind of died down, to be honest. I mean, but I actually forgot about her. I think that's
I don't have any thoughts on it. I mean, I don't other than why is breakdancing in the Olympics. That's a bit ridiculous. But I mean,
like,
look, she was It doesn't really worry me. I don't.
It's an interesting story, like it does kind of highlight, your how you manage things. Yeah, I mean, and because there's a lot of like stories out there about, she and her husband were part of the breakdancing committee, which they've actually gone. The Australian breakdancing community have said no, that's not true. That's completely false. And but I don't know. I think her coming out with the video to I appreciate that her family and friends have all been harassed, and that's not cool at all. But it's kind of like maybe go a little bit. Yeah, maybe should have just left it there and just it kind of gave people like something to laugh about, and I mean, it's just the unfortunate thing about it's just really the world we live in is like you and I know about YouTube. It's like you've got commenters and you always have people trolling and putting nasty stuff, but they're just behind a keyboard, and it just have to really you can't just not be triggered by them. And I guess she should have just like go on a pre-planned holiday after the Olympics and just get back to Australia. And by the time she gets back to Australia, everyone would have forgotten about it, and I'd pretty much forgotten about it until Bosman put that question there. So I was like,
I'm sure they'll make a Netflix show about it or something, and leave it at that.
Well, to be fair, she's she's a winner regardless, because she's gonna like you say, there'll be a Netflix video, there'll be some be pieces wanting to get her side of the story. She's like like Eric the Eel, or what's it? That
Jamaican bobsled and
so it's that I mean, I guess it was a bit of a shame because you guys had like an amazing Olympics. Like, wasn't it like the best ever Olympics you had or something like that? And
best ever golds, maybe not sure total medals. Maybe Sydney 2000 might have been higher. I'm not sure, but I mean, the swimmers did really well. Even athletics, we had a was it a pole vault in the women's?
Yes, Nina
Kennedy.
Yeah,
she's
from
Perth,
that was an amazing final. Yeah,
we had obviously skateboarding. Might have been a couple of others that I'm forgetting, but rowing of it. Or Jess Fox in the canoe. She won 2, and I think her sister won. Was it gold or? Yeah, I think her sister won a gold as well. I think so. Yeah, amazing performance. Like Australia sort of used to be very good, but then the UK and France and a few others might have gone past them. But phenomenal result. We couldn't hang on to third. Japan, I think, got us on the last day, but still,
it's amazing.
Per capita.
Like Australia, we've got to remember, like us, Australia, New Zealand, like it's New Zealand, we've got like we've got 5 million, and you've got, was it 28? No, just 38. Have you hit 30 million?
27.
Yeah.
And
and then we're so far away from from Europe, and like the UK again. The UK's got so much. They've got, well, maybe not that much money because of Brexit and all that, but they certainly spend a lot of money into their sport. In France, well, they're at home, so like so it's pretty awesome though. And we had a pretty good games as well, like 10 goals. So I mean,
it's incredible.
I was kind of like, let's see how it goes. I mean, if we top Tokyo, that's great. So it's like, oh, that was nice. And the long, yeah, like Hamish could at so keep getting the high long jump. That high jump final was, that was probably my favorite moment. It was the final that never didn't seem to want to end, because it was like, well, no one knew what the rules were, and like, oh yeah, it was like, oh, he's gonna go on a jump off. Yeah, it was thought, oh, he's gonna share goal. It was like, oh wait, no, he's gonna go into a jump off. So it's like a bit more stressful than I thought, but oh well. But yeah, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, I guess I should, so yeah, that kind of brings, because I was actually, I don't so you've obviously been new to this YouTube, doing YouTube videos, like, and you mentioned there's one guy that I think we might mention earlier that sort of inspired you, a guy called Depressed Ginger, that kind of you sort of, you got some, kind of inspired you to, cover these, to, cover the topics that you cover.
Yeah, that's right. And I know you're familiar with him. I don't know whether you've spoken about him in front of your audience before or in any videos, but it's quite a funny channel. Like, he makes videos about sport. That incident in New York in 2001. I don't know whether it's going to get demonetized if I talk about it or whatever.
No,
But yeah, politics.
he's
Crypto.
got
He makes.
interesting, yeah. He's got an interesting, really diverse. Yeah, it's quite. So there's this YouTuber called Forgotten Places. I don't know if I should mention his name. His name's Jeff. He's based in Cleveland, and actually that's the same city where Depressed Ginger is from. And I've seen them two talk. And Jeff, it's an interesting guy. Yeah, and yeah, because the reason why I mentioned him is because when I was watching his videos and yours, I was like, man, there's so many similarities, but I can say, I think there was, you got, your videos are just, it kind of feels like you've definitely done your research. And because the reason I say that is like, there's been talk, like, with Depressed Ginger, I think there's, there was actually a video about him by Jaguar9. He's this YouTuber who's a
I've
NFL
seen it.
Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of like really took him down. Like, oh yeah, he's reading from Wikipedia and looking at your videos. I'm pretty sure you don't read off Wikipedia, because the way you're just, you're really articulate and clear on, and you know your stuff. And you can certainly pronounce Brisbane properly, unlike
Well, no
it's
Americans
like,
can
oh
pronounce
my
Brisbane.
god, it's like, no.
Don't make me pronounce New Zealand place names, but
Hey,
look, I mean, sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, don't worry, my material's not that. You go. Yeah, sorry, you're gonna say.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I guess the way Depressed Ginger, he's sort of the style in terms of just having still images in a slideshow and just narration. I quite enjoyed that because
the concept's actually
can,
really good. Yeah,
because people can get cringy with like animations or graphics, but if they look really cheap, and I don't know how to do that, so
no, and I just don't have the time either. And it's also like, I mean, with sports, I try and if you try and take games, like there's something like fair use, but it's really like the lines quite blur, and and it's, it varies between different sports. I know, like, try to do like AFL, NRL videos, and I think there's tricks around it now, which I won't mention. There's secrets, but yeah, like obviously if you use too much of your content, it gets you get told your video gets blocked, or even you get a strike, which actually happened to me in the past with my because this I actually had this with my channel. It was a sort of like a I actually had to. It's actually a rebirth from my. I've been on YouTube for like, God knows, like nearly 20 years, but I kind of went in and out of it. I just did like shit. I think it was just videos when I was a teenager, and then I did and then I thought, maybe take it up again, because like I started watching like so my YouTube, so I sort of, because I'm an NFL fan, so I started watching like found like Urinating Tree. There's this
yeah,
Tom
I like the NFL as well. I'm not
yeah,
really yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe I should. And then I thought, this is pretty cool. And obviously, I tried. Yeah, it's a nice hobby, but I think one of my videos was about, it was during the Rugby World Cup, and yeah, I actually was I got a copyright strike, and actually YouTube took down my old channel, so it's like, which just sucked which kind of sucked. Sorry, pretty straight, but yeah, because I had like other stuff on it, so it's like so it's like so I had to restart this channel, and the lesson is kind of keep your business channel from your personal channel. So so that's but so it's I try and be original as possible, but I'm still learning, and I only just got monetized as well, which I'm pretty stoked about. So but I did one video about I did a video about Drake May, because I don't know if I should say this, I'm a New England Patriots fan, and I'm not gonna quit on them, even though they're probably gonna suck for the next 20 years. But like I did a Drake May video recently. I did use some of this footage from the preseason and from the combine, and it's like you can't like it's fine to use, like it's just because of the copyright you can't get me monetized. So it's like so it's like so it's like certainly like your model and Depressed Ginger's model is like that's where you just still images. It's actually and it's easier to make videos that way. It's probably it's certainly quite sustainable. So so hey, I might just, because it is nearly I'm getting a bit showing my age, it's nearly my bedtime. I might start to wrap this up. So I think you've got, so I did mention before, and I'll mention again, you've got a video, AFL sets attendance record in 2024, which premiered an hour ago, so I'll definitely check it out after this. What are any other projects you've got that you don't have to share, but you might be, I guess with AFL finishing, what are you gonna look at next?
Yeah, I'm actually a bit. I'm not too sure what I can pivot the channel into once the NRL and AFL season's done. I mean, I'll make some cricket content for sure. I'm not going to get into the US sports or anything, because I'd just rather leave that to their audiences. I don't really think Americans want to hear an Australian talking about American sports. Really?
I don't know. Have you heard of? There's this guy he's an Aussie. He's out in I think it's Gosford or somewhere. Yeah, like it's sort of like New South Wales, Queensland. Steeler Nation Australia. Have you heard of
Yeah,
him?
I don't know. My concern probably is I'll be treading on Depressed Ginger's toes a bit with the style of videos I make.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
You won't
I
be
like the
reading on
NFL,
Wikipedia. You'll be no, but no.
but I mean, all the topics he talks, stadiums and whatever. Like, if I start talking about NFL stuff, it's been done. So
it is very competitive. Yeah, like I might talk about Patriots, but it's extremely like I would and so no, that's certainly you've got to find your niche, and I mean I kind of found my own rugby, and it's quite interesting what you can delve into, and it's just really what you've got to do. So
yeah, I'm thinking of setting up a second channel in the non-sports niche post the AFL season. I'll still obviously upload to this channel and use it, but I've been lucky enough to have quite a bit of success early with this channel. So, but I think
how
it
many
has a
subscribers
ceiling.
have you got?
I think it's about 2.3, 2.4K.
Oh, well done.
So it's been really good, and people have been really supportive and been getting around the videos, which is good. But when you are just operating in like Australia and a little bit of New Zealand, the ceiling is pretty low in terms of how big it can get. So I'm going to have a crack at another niche, I think, which is an interest of, I won't get into it here, but it's an interest of mine. Not sports related, but which has a much higher, worldwide appeal. So, because I've been enjoying this process and making money independently. So if I could get to the point where maybe I could sustainably do it, full time or whatever, that might be something I could look at doing. Because I think there's not as much cricket content. And I'm a big cricket fan, but I just don't think there's enough content in terms of making 2 or 3 videos a week.
I mean, I mean, the cricket part. I mean, you've got to. I guess you've got to figure out what the target audience is. Yeah, because I've my rugby audience. Yeah, for my rugby vids, they seem to be like, yeah, South African fans seem to like. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, South African viewers. So, although I've had a few New Zealand viewers and they seem to like it. So, but
Yeah,
again,
and
yeah, like yeah, it's New Zealand's small, so it's like, yeah, you can't need the South Africans. So, yeah, and then yeah, and then as you say, like NFL, yeah, I mean. I just kind of don't want to. Yeah, I mean, like there's urinating tree and this clickbait sports crew and Jaguar Game 9. There's so many YouTubers like yeah, it's too saturated. Like no, I'm not gonna go there. So yeah, but yeah, like for me, yeah, I guess urinating tree is sort of like my how I kind of want to like I not just want to stick on one sport, but he's just like covers all. He just loves sport. It's like yeah, we just both love sport, and so that's how I trying to do it. I did sort of do like an AFL vid about, thinking about what's the future. And I did put my predictions in, like looking back, at these teams from a New Zealand glance. But yeah, so might look at the NRL and yeah, just I mean I did a couple of vids over the Olympics as well. So I kind of like those documentaries as well, where you just kind of more obscure topics, and they seem to work. Yeah, so yeah, but yes. Oh well, it's been really. We might wrap it up there. And look, it's been really really nice talking to you. And yeah, just yeah. Look, I mean, I can't wish Free all the best because this season's over. But yeah, no, it'll be
next year.
certainly. Yeah, yeah. There's always next year. And yeah, no, I look forward to. Yeah, look, thanks and look, thanks so much for anyone who stayed on. And yeah, 5 or 4 viewers. Yeah, that's pretty good. And yeah, so anyway, we'll wrap it up tonight. And look, thanks for everyone joining, and thanks to Pivot Piece for joining. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Thanks a
Oh,
lot, guys. See ya.
no,